Welcome back to the Sandwich Generation Pod, where we're taking demands from our toddlers and our parents often in the same hour.
We're the people that can schedule a play date and a cardiology consult before 9 a.m.
Today's episode is tender. It's honest. It's about something we don't talk about enough, the loneliness of caregiving.
Today we're joined by Jessica Kim. She's a co-founder of Ianacare, a sandwich caregiver, an advocate, and someone who has lived this deeply while caring for both of her parents.
Jessica, we are so grateful that you're here. Let's get into it.
We are so glad you're here. We feel so lucky to have this time with you.
Yeah, thanks for saying yes.
Yeah.
No, I'm excited. I loved meeting you guys, and then I'm listening along with you, and I just love how authentic you guys are. So I'm so happy to be here.
Well, I feel like we nearly kidnapped you when we met you. We met Jessica in Minneapolis. We're like, oh, there's this care conference. We're kind of new to this whole thing. Let's go to this, and we were meeting everyone and trying to network, and we're business women. So we're not new to that, but we're new to the landscape of the caregiving world. So then you were the keynote, and I was like, oh, yes. Thank God we came to this because I love this girl. I'm in love with you. I'm yes, everything you're saying. I'm crying. I'm laughing. I'm okay, wait, how do we get behind stage? How do we get this girl?
You're basically our Taylor Swift of the day. So thank you for that.
So we're maybe if we wait around. And then you came out and we were bam.
Yeah,
Yo.
It was awesome. I loved it. You had so much energy and just focusing on the sandwich caregiver. I was yes, people don't talk about this enough, so.
That's what we're saying, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I was so moved by your message and what you said. Jessica did this amazing keynote, and it was about all the puzzle pieces about caregiving, and it was just so well done. So I just felt like I knew you, and I was this chick has to hang with us. So thank you for just bringing such a great voice to caregiving and just being so, normal and relatable. And this is such a heavy topic, so it's kind of nice when you see people that are bringing joy and laughter and levity and all the things. I do want everyone to just get to know you a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, definitely. Okay. So tell us your story. You are a caregiver 2 to 3 times over, but you're also a sandwich caregiver.
Yeah.
And so tell us all about who Jessica Kim is. I'm sure that's taken on many different iterations of yourself, it feels, probably over each time that you were a caregiver.
Yes. Well, I am the youngest of 3 kids. So I have an older brother and a sister, and then it's me. And they're 6 years apart between me and my brother. My parents were incredible parents. I credit everything to them. I always say I have my level of confidence because of the way that they just always supported me and just believed in me, almost where I was okay, I'm not that great. But they would always just encourage me so much with words. So my love language is words of encouragement. And so when my mom, she started having back pain, and she just came from travels, and she had stomach issues and back pain, and we're go get it checked, and just okay, it's probably from something you ate or travels or something. And for about 6 months, she was going to a chiropractor. She was just I don't feel like myself. And then finally, she was I feel so itchy all over. And my sister is a dermatologist, and she was you got to get your blood checked. And so she got her blood checked, and she had pancreatic cancer. And we were told that she would have 3 to 4 months to live. I was 34 weeks pregnant with my second child at that time. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I went to my OB and said, I need to go on a trip, because I lived in Chicago at that time, actually. And I was I need to go on a plane. And my doctor was you are not going anywhere. You're going to have that baby any day now. And I was but my mom has pancreatic cancer. He's I'll write you a note. And my heart sank. Because I was what do you mean? That means it's really bad. Because he was just telling me I can't go anywhere. And he said, the worst thing is that you'll have the baby on the plane. It's been done before. You should go see your mom. And that was such a moment when I realized the seriousness of her diagnosis. So I did go on the plane and I went to see her, and I was so big and pregnant, and she was like, I know the name of your baby. And I was like,
Whoa.
what? She's like, his name should be Grant because he is going to grant people blessings and he's going to have that Grant type of heart. And I was like, okay, kind of a random name. And his name is Grant.
Did you know if it was a boy?
And we knew it was a boy. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I just remember that moment, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's going to die in a couple months. I was emotional. I had hormones, everything. And I was just trying to grasp everything. But fast forward, she lived for 7.5 years.
Wow.
Whoa, no way.
Pancreatic cancer. She
Wow.
is such a fighter, but I hesitate saying that because I never want anyone who has cancer to think it's like about them being a fighter or not, because everyone fights, right? It's just a horrible, ugly disease that's beyond all of us. But
had she chosen treatment, or was that just
she was.
wild
I mean,
luck?
she was only 60. She was young.
Okay.
So she was like not ready to go. She was not facing death, and she did not want to go. And so, but that was like a 7.5 year journey of 4 rounds of chemo. She got down to 90 pounds. She got the Whipple surgery, and I am forever grateful to that surgeon who spent 4 extra hours trying to scrape everything, because they kind of went in and it was like a peek and close situation. They went in and they were like, there's no way, it's around a major artery. Most surgeons would have closed it up and said, we can't do anything. And that surgery saved her life. Like gave her many extra years.
Because the surgeon just like wasn't afraid and actually just went in and
I think he was like, okay, I'm going to fight with you. And it's just like each person matters in what they decide. And
Each person matters so much. Like, isn't there so many instances along all of our caregiving journeys where it's like that one doctor that you meet, or that one comment that you made?
It could be pivotal.
Pivotal. I have a good story about a psychic that told me about the fact that my dad, who was like in the ICU with sepsis and almost had spent 100 days in the hospital, the psychic told me that maybe it was the cocktail of medication, the cocktail of antibiotics he needed to switch up. And I didn't even go see the psychic for my dad. I treat myself to a little psychic reading once a year, and I just happened to do it around that time, and I just happened to mention his health crisis. And she was like, I just feel like he'll be okay, but he needs a different cocktail of antibiotics. And then long story short, I call the doctor after I get off the phone with the psychic, and I'm like, hey, so is there like a different cocktail of antibiotics we can give him since what we're doing is not working? And he was like, no, this is what we do for sepsis. We hang up. I'm like, okay, whatever. And a couple hours later, he calls me back and is like, I've been thinking about what you were saying. You're right. What we're doing isn't working. I think he does need a different combination of medications. And so he switched his medications, totally turned it around. But my point, I know, crazy, right?
Crazy.
My point is like, there's so many people along the way. You're right. Every single person matters.
Yes.
And we have no idea who might suggest something, who might say something, who might physically do something, like in an operating room, that changes the course of our loved ones' lives.
And it also, your story speaks to you listening, trusting your gut, and advocating, right?
Yeah.
You could have heard that and said, what do you know? Like, you're a psychic. Like, what do you mean? How do you know any of this? You're not a medical person, but you trusted your gut and you asked. And like, that's a huge, huge key piece to it too. So.
Yeah. I mean, listen, there's a reason that I go see that psychic once a year.
I kind of want to go see that.
She's pretty great. She's pretty great.
What's her name?
I know.
Her name is Christine. And
Who
she's
is she?
amazing.
How do we get a hold of her? Okay.
Okay,
Anyways,
so you had
back to
7
caregiving.
years, with your mother after she was diagnosed, which is really incredible. That's a great story. And you're right, everybody facing cancer is a fighter.
Yes.
For sure. Every story is so different when it comes to that disease.
Totally.
Then she moved. She took her in. She moved in with you.
Yeah, so, it was about a couple years into her treatment journey. They still lived in New Jersey, where I'm originally from. My dad is 10 years older than her. He was still working, trying to care for her. And I went to their house because they couldn't make the drive over for like a holiday. And I was like, why? So I went down and I opened the door. My mom, she was a put together woman. You know, one of those where I'm like, how do you keep up with that? There's always like new flowers, a new picture. I'm like, who thinks about that stuff? But it was always something fresh. So walking in and seeing Wendy's wrappers everywhere.
Totally.
Fast food wrappers, garbage, dishes. I was shocked. My dad came to the door. He looked like, I don't know, his hair was all over the place. He was wearing old pajamas. And I was like, wow, they are struggling. So it was in that moment where I was like, this can't happen anymore. You need to move in with us. And
so did both of your parents move in?
Yeah, so they both moved in with us. And we positioned it as, it's just temporary. Let's change the cancer treatment up to Dana-Farber. And just so you get through this treatment where it's really tough, let me help you. And I was still working full time. At that time, I had 3 kids. And when they moved in with me, they were 7, 5, and 2 years old. I was caring for them, cooking, cleaning, doing all the side effects after chemo treatment, which no one ever warns you about.
How did you even, what did your day even, we are in it right now, but like our parents aren't actually living in our home. I can't even imagine what your day looked like.
Yeah, I look back and I'm wondering the same. How did I do it? Because it logically does not make sense.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I knew what I was saying yes to even, but it's just like, yes, come. Like, it's going to be better than the Wendy's wrappers and what I walked into, for sure.
Yeah,
and I think that's part of it. It's like, I know it's going to be better than that. So just come. But it was a lot of multiple things happening at once. And it was beyond juggling, because juggling is like you have one ball that goes up and one goes down. This was like balls at me all the time. And it really is, it's a force, like you just have to go moment by moment.
What was your emotional life? Were you patient? Were you flying off the handle once an hour? Were you keeping your shit together and crying in the closet? What, all of it?
Well, I did it for many years, but in the beginning, I think I was somewhat numb. I think I was just focused on what needed to get done. And I think that's why so many of us who are thrust into caregiving don't even call ourselves caregivers, because you're not even at the point of looking at what your identity is. You're just like, someone just fell, the kid's hungry, they got to get to school.
Yes.
My mom is throwing up from the treatment, and you're just like, what is right in front of me? And I need to go and do and go and do.
Yeah.
And when I was thrust into it for the first time, I was just kind of in this zone, and so much of it was hidden. I didn't really talk about what was happening. I was still trying to keep my life together at work or with friends, and compartmentalization is exactly what it was about. It was like all these compartments that only I knew was happening all at once.
Right.
And
because you don't want to show up to brunch.
Yeah.
You're like, everything. Yeah. I'm at work. Everything's fine. It's just a little chaos at home, making jokes probably. And I love that you said that about the caregiving piece, because I remember the first time somebody called me a caregiver and I was like, what the fuck?
That's not me.
I'm like, what? Caregiver? That sounds terrible. I'm like, I'm not a caregiver. I don't know what I was imagining that was. Some lady in an apron from the 1800s with porridge or something. I was just like, what the fuck? No, I'm not. I'm cool.
It's still, if you Google caregiver, it's those images still to this day. They're not putting up images of us.
No, they've always got the porridge. I don't know. I'm just like, what the... You know what I'm saying? Some sort of healing, oatmeal or something. I don't know. I was just like, what? And a rag to put over your head, from Little House on the Prairie. I'm like, that is not me. I am a cool mom chick, who happens to have a lot of sick people around me,
Yes.
But I am not a caregiver. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not that.
Yes. Okay. No, it's true though. But I did get to the point where I did end up quitting my job for the first time ever in my career. And that was a big deal for me because I was very career driven. I worked so hard to get to where I was, but I just couldn't do it. I think it was like 5, 6 months into it, and it was around the clock, like it would fall and I would have a baby monitor. Even though my kids were beyond that age, I got like a baby monitor for my parents' room.
Yeah,
And just like, and it was just like constant. But then it was also this tension of my mom deserves the best, and because it was cancer, it's life, death, and it's pancreatic cancer. We know we were on like borrowed time. So it was very much like, I'm so grateful for the extra time, but at some point, all the stats say that we're not going to cure this.
Right.
And so I made that decision and said, well, this is worth it.
Did it take you a lot of time? Like, was it a year of thinking about quitting your job with a lot of discussions with your husband? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah, it was. I mean, there's financial impact. There's just all the logistics. A lot of it also was like, oh my gosh, let's see, I was in my late 30s, right? So, or my 30s. And so I was like, oh my gosh, did I just give up? And in that moment, you think this decision is going to be a fork in my life, right? You don't think what's after that, or you don't think if I give up and quit my job. And I worked through having 3 kids, right? So I've already faced that, what typically moms face. They say, wow, does this make sense? Is this what I want to do? Am I the best that I can at work and as a mom and all of that? So I've already faced that with the 3 kids, and things change and there's phases and stages to life. That's a big thing that I realized. But quitting was not an easy decision for all those reasons. And at that time when I made that decision, I did think, wow, I am choosing this fork in the road. And that was very, very sad for me.
Yeah.
But I still chose
listen, you're talking to 2 women who own their own businesses and are caregiving and are sandwiched. And every year that we're deeper into this, it's like, am I doing right by everyone? Does this still make sense? Is anyone suffering? Is the business suffering? Are we doing okay? Like, it's all those questions.
Yeah.
And I think it takes a lot of courage to make a big decision, especially for women to choose to leave their careers to caregive, because that's riddled with so many emotions of failure when it actually is nothing that we expected to happen. Right. And
not plan it.
That decision is, I would imagine, so sad and tricky, and also maybe in a little tiny way a relief after you make the decision.
Well, yeah.
Because you can then fully focus on the 20,000 other jobs that you had at home.
Yeah.
While caregiving.
Yeah, logistically and just time and energy wise, it was kind of like, okay, now I don't have deadlines and all these things and always having to be on. But for me, there was a constant like, oh, but wow, what did I give up? I wish someone told me at that time there are phases and stages. And I think the reason why we feel all that pressure that you were just talking about is because of our society and culture, right?
Absolutely.
That we don't value and recognize the caregiving because we're so productivity driven, right? And in this country that we live in. And that's why we feel this split. But if someone were to tell me like caregiving is one of the most important things, it's the greatest act of love, you will never regret it. And you are capable and you're amazing. And what you learned from that and what you've learned up until here in your career, like you will be able to go back. So let that go and be present. Like I wish someone told me that in that moment. And I tell you that, and I tell everyone listening that there are phases and stages. And I'm now on the other side where I was like, wow, the culture still needs to catch up more, but I think we're starting to get there because we're talking about it more and we're seeing the policy, and we're realizing after COVID and everything that we see in this world right now, we see like what really matters at the end of it. I think we're all starting to change, but we need more people like us talking about it and advocating for it to really change that.
Yeah. And it's so nice. I mean, it's amazing to hear you say that this morning, because I think being sandwiched, you're constantly taking inventory. sometimes I go to sleep, and this is honestly what I do. I'm like, did I spend enough time thinking and caring about my mom? Did I spend enough time caring about my dad? Did I think enough about my kids? Did I think enough about my job? Did I think enough about my husband? Like, I mean, maybe I'm crazy, but I don't think I'm the only one doing that. They say like everybody has the same hours in a day and all that stuff, but it's like, I really do think you start, when you get in the sandwich moment, you're reprioritizing all the time. Yeah. Like suddenly it's kind of like when you have kids and you're like, well, okay, this meeting can wait because I have a baby now and I want to pay attention to this baby. And you go through that all over again. But now my mom is dying.
Yeah.
My mom's dying.
Yep.
And like the world has stopped, my world, but the world's still turning. And I still have to go to this networking event tomorrow, and it's my daughter's birthday, and it's like, but my mom's dying. And it's just this constant taking of inventory and reprioritizing, and nobody can tell you how to do it. That's the lonely part, is like, nobody can tell you what's right for you. Nobody can tell you what works for your finances, and nobody can tell you what works for your family. And you are at the center of it all. Yeah. And I've never felt so important, but I've also never felt, which is kind of nice. I'm like, damn, I'm important.
Everyone needs you.
Damn, I'm important. We don't question our value.
Damn, I'm bringing something. But also like, damn, like, I don't know how to be this important, like I'm fucking it up all the time.
So I totally, what I started, I'm a huge mindset person, and my dad was a psychiatrist. And so he was always talking about reframing and how do you think about this? And I really do think our mindset, or how we frame things, reframe things, approach things, really literally change the way facts are in our life. And what, happens can either make us feel motivated or totally demotivated, or that something possible or impossible. And so with that juggle, I started thinking about, sometimes we think about our priorities like it's the food pyramid, right? And I would put pressure on, these are my priorities as a mom, as a wife, as a daughter, as a driven career person, and God, and like, this is like what my priorities are. And I put that pressure that every day has to reflect that, right? Like exactly what you said. I go to bed at night and say like, how much time did I do? What did I do here? And I feel like it's the pressure that's so unrealistic, like putting the food pyramid expectation on every meal. I mean, I would be totally off, right? Like, did I eat cold pizza this morning? I'm not going to admit that, but I did. And, I would be a failure every single meal, because very rarely do we have it in that perfect kind of prioritized setup that we all know is for our good health. And so I started thinking about that. I was like, every day cannot reflect our priorities. It's just not realistic. But then if you let go of it completely and say that's impossible, and I've lived this, that's when 2 years go by, 3 years go by, and you're like, why is my marriage like this? Or how come I don't have friends anymore? Because everything felt so urgent with my mom that I said no to everything, because I thought every month that she was going to die. And so I said, no. And it turned out to be 7.5 years. And I will tell you, we didn't go on vacation for 2-3 years, which is a sacrifice. But like the kids, they needed a break too, and just joy. But everything felt like no, because mom's dying, mom has cancer. And that really put me in a really deep, isolated hole, because I said, this is my priority right now and everything has to fall. But then like, if you do that too long, your life isn't what you want it to be. And then, so I started doing this like 3-day rule. It's like 3-day, 5-day rule, whatever it is. But it's basically, can I look at the last 3 days and does that reflect my priorities? And then it feels a little bit doable, but then it's enough time to give yourself grace. But then it doesn't let 3-5 years go by where you've lost very important things in your life. And so I say, in the last 3 days, did I show up to my kids' things? And do they know that mommy shows up? And sure, I missed something on the second day, but I was there on the third day. And their memory can only keep like 3 days anyways at that age, right? Or like I would say to my husband, did I still show up for him and whatever that means, or my friends, or my faith? And I still live by that and give myself usually a weekly sprint. Like I look at this week and I'm like, okay, if I traveled for work, or if I was really involved in X, Y, and Z, then I need to lay off or change my schedule to be there in the other parts of my life. And I do feel like that makes me feel like I am where I need to be, but with a lot of grace, you know?
I'm like over here taking notes. I don't know, lately, this is something that I feel like I've been struggling with, where it feels like every day I didn't do enough, or every day, like, I didn't accomplish enough that I wanted to or something. And I think some of that is because of just this time in life. And you're right. It's like there's phases and different seasons and like all of that. But it's tricky. We have incredibly full plates. And so I feel torn. I always feel like pulled in so many different directions. And I also want to be very mindful, remembering that like joy needs to happen in the midst of this. I think that's some advice that I've held on to really well from other people. And not that I'm perfect at it, but like we're trying.
Okay, so your mom is living with you. You've got a 2, 5, and 7-year-old. You can continue on with that.
Yeah, so my mom ended up doing in-home hospice, which was so hard that that still really gets me choked up.
We cry on this podcast, so
okay.
Feel free. Yes.
Because I can just transport myself there. So we didn't have a first bedroom on the first floor. So my mom was like, no, we got to go home. I think I'm nearing the end. And she was fighting it, and they did not want to burden us. And she's like, I'm not passing away in your home. And I remember we took her to her appointment, and then my husband and I, to surprise her, totally turned our office into her bedroom. We got an extra bed and just put nice lighting and like new bedding. And we're like, Mom, we got to go in and find some paperwork, and walked in, and it was just like, I remember she started crying, and she was just like, oh my gosh, you really do want me here, and like more than anything, Mom. And she had a very long active dying process, which was so hard. It was grueling. It was like a 6-month every single day. You think it's going to happen every day, which is so long. If anyone has ever gone through hospice, it's typically within a week or so. So she passed away in my home. At that time, my kids were like 10, 7, and 5. And I wasn't able to go into that room for many, many years. And after that, I just felt so angry. I felt angry at our culture. I felt angry at the system. I felt angry. I think a lot of my grief came out in anger, because that the experience was what it was. Then when it hit me, when I did reflect after being numb and just doing and doing, of like, why was it like that? Why was it all on me? And then my dad ended up, he lived with us because he tried to move back, but many falls, and he was on Chinese food takeout and McDonald's, and he had congestive heart failure for many years. And so that is not what you eat when you have heart failure. There's a lot of sodium. And so I would get calls from the neighbor, and anyways, he ended up moving in with us, and he lived with us for 6 years. And we had a couple of really great years with him, and he dressed up as Santa, and he just kind of like we just enjoyed time with him. He went along with us with everything. And then, depression really hit him. Ironically, he was a psychiatrist, as I mentioned. And so that was really, really hard, caring for my mom who had cancer, and there's like a treatment, and it was just like a different cadence and journey. And she was very much with it and positive and trying to fight it. And we were along the ride with her. And then my dad never got over the fact that my mom passed. I mean, she was the love of his life, his whole reason of living. And he was 10 years older. He was nearing his 80s, and he fell through depression, substance abuse, just like it got really messy. And then his congestive heart failure took a total turn because of all of that, because it's very much on your behavior and what you eat and how you exercise or don't exercise. And the last 2.5 years of him living with us was in and out of the hospital, to the point where I had to bathe him and care for him. And he also lost so much weight. And then he passed away just 2 years ago. My kids were 16, 13, and 10. So it was a long journey for them too.
That was my next question, is like, I mean, your kids from a very young age, had their grandparents living with them, but also have gone through all of it, right? Like all of it, seeing the sickness. probably seeing the different ways that loss has happened for your family, also experiencing the joy with their grandparents.
Yeah.
But how do you think that that's been for them?
You know, it's so interesting you asked that because my daughter just turned 19, which is crazy. But I was just talking to her about how she thought about a big part of her childhood, seeing it.
Yeah.
And you know what? The amazing thing, it really matched their developmental kind of milestones of like what they can grasp. So my youngest was just like kissing my mom, kissing my dad. Like it was just grandma, grandpa. He didn't really understand the grasp of what was happening or how stressed out I was, you know? It was just young. My middle, I saw the progression where he was going through, you know, middle school and starting to high school and like things were getting harder. And I remember he like just like slammed a vocabulary book on the floor. He's like, what's the point of all this? We just all die anyways. And that like broke my heart. So I was like, wow, you know, like you shouldn't be thinking that at that young age. And then my daughter was the oldest one throughout it. And her biggest takeaway is you show up for people that you love, you know? I think all of them feel that though. But it was interesting to see through the span of, 2 to like 10, you know, 10 to 18, right? Just like what their perspective was. What they would think now is that that's what true love is. And for that, I'm grateful that they understand the depth of love is beyond the joy and the happy feeling, or that it is conditional. You know, they see like you really do show up for each other. And I see that in them. And so for that, I'm grateful, you know, and I'm sure it's going to continue as they process, as they continue to get older, right? And they face their own, like it's a forever evolving processing for every single one of us. But I think the biggest thing is that I was very vulnerable with them. You know, I included them so much. I went through the spectrum of how involved do I get the kids, even throughout the entire journey, throughout their whole childhood. And, you know, when they were younger, it was like, oh, let's make a smoothie for grandma, or, you know, help grandpa do this, and just like get them involved. And I, you know, was really helpful. And then, you know, I would start high level, but I would share the facts of what was happening, see how they responded, not push them too much if I saw them being either scared. Like I remember Kayla sometimes would be like, oh, I don't want to go in there. You know, I'm scared. I'm like, it's okay. You don't need to, you know. But just always not overprotecting them. And I think kids, they don't have as much of the baggage and weight as we do as adults. And it was a reminder of that. And so just being open, getting them more involved, being more vulnerable, and then responding to each one and how they, you know, how they react was advice that I was given. And I'm so grateful for that, because I think my nature would be to overprotect, right? And to kind of separate and say, don't worry about it, or candy coat things. And I think that would have been harder as things got harder. And I don't know how they would have processed that, but who knows?
Who knows, right? We all just do our best.
We'll
I mean, we're both, I think I can speak for both of us, but like we're both of the camp of our kids are a part of this and along for this ride. And it's sometimes a fine line of like, what do you expose them to or not? But also it's okay for them to see and experience hardship along the way. And especially when it comes to health and taking care of our loved ones. I think that there is some foundational lesson that this is the world. I think you're right in that you have to read the room some days, right? Not push them into anything that they're not ready for. But also being in the sandwich generation, it's like nearly impossible to separate it half the time too, because they're along.
I was just thinking about like, you know, the involvement of our kids in the journey. And, you know, Dolly is going to be 4 this week, but she insists on pushing my mom in her wheelchair. And, you know, you just want to cry. And then she does run her into the wall. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, Mom. Oh my God. Oh my God, Mom. I'm like, okay, Dolly. She's like, I can do it. I'm like, but you just rammed her. And like the people at the facility are like watching this, and she's like ramming her into the wall. But I'm like, God. But she loves her and she's learning how to drive. So, but you know, it's funny. And it's just, and I have videos of it. She's like in her, you know, Dolly's in her Princess Peach costume, like pushing my mom, and it's like literally I'm just like, this is my whole fucking heart, you know. So I love, like, yes, understanding the importance of including them. And, you know, Dolly also last night was like, Mom, you know, you have to sleep, because if you don't sleep, your brain will get sick and you'll get old and die. And I don't want you to get old and die. And I don't want your brain to be sick. When you were talking about how vulnerable you were with your kids, I think this is like something I think about a lot right now. Obviously, I'm a very emotional person. I can't hold my feelings. So I'm like, I know I'm always crying on this damn podcast, but, you know, I think there's this question of like, you don't want your kids to worry about you. You know, you don't want them to feel like they have to take care of you. And there's this really fine line of like sharing my feelings of grief, because like, can't help it, you know, it's just kind of the flavor of the day. But it's like really hard to know, like sending a message to Dolly, who I don't want her to be stressed about, you know, I like saying to her, you don't have to take care of me, but also like knowing it's important that she knows that it's real, that I'm going through a hard time.
And that it's also okay if Mom is sad, that it's not her. That's, it's nothing she did, you know, but that it's okay if we have emotions too. You know,
totally.
Like we're processing too. I think in generations past, they didn't show emotion, and that did not go well. Right?
No.
Like we know
they were fucked up.
We're just fine.
We are great.
Fine. We pour it all out.
Thriving, stable, strong.
But you know, Robyn, I feel that so much when you share that. You don't want to stress them out. And I'm realizing more and more, it's like I'm still processing all of everything. And I realize, and I look back and I feel like they connect with the emotion, and it makes you feel connected as human. But I do think kids don't see our exhaustion. It's weird. Like I mean, even now as teenagers, like I'm exhausted, like running them around. They don't see it, they just see it that I show up. But it's freeing for me because I am exhausted, and I was so exhausted then. And when I talk to them now and I say, do you realize how crazy it was? My daughter, now that she is like an adult technically, she was like, I don't remember that. I don't remember like that you were crazy. That I can't imagine how much you did go through, but I just remember like you showing up, you know? And so I was like, that's so fascinating. And so I think it's freeing, and hopefully it frees you. That's like showing that vulnerability of just how you feel, no matter what age you are. We are built to connect emotionally. And, you know, my kids would give me a hug and I'm like, oh my gosh, that filled me so much. Like, thank you for doing that. And they feel so much purpose too, right? Not taking care of you, but filling you. And I would say that all the time. And it was true.
Just yesterday, I sort of had this epiphany. I think I've always thought it, but like one of the blessings of being sandwiched is that you do have a source of joy that's just right at your doorstep, right under your nose. It's not just that you're surrounded by grief. You're also surrounded by life, you know, and there is something to really embrace about that. So I'm grateful for Oz and Doll. They bring me all the joy, you know.
Okay, I am loving this conversation with Jessica so much. This is exactly what I needed today. If you know someone who might benefit from this episode, just share it right now. Click the share button. We thank you.
I love that. I think when we think about grief, seeking joy is a sign of grief. It is. We don't think of it that way.
Really?
Yes.
That's scientific. That's so interesting that you said that.
I don't think it's scientific. I did not do 10 years of research on that, but 10 years of living it, maybe. I have been actually thinking about grief as caregiving, as a caregiver. It is so different than normal. I don't know if there's a normal grief, but grief as not a caregiver. It's very different. But part of it is so much around us is so hard and difficult and sad and like doomsday and what if and not fun and messy that I have found. And I'm a joyful person. I am like a silly joyful. Like when you want to celebrate, my friends call me. I'm like, yes, let's go. And so it's so interesting, like what I do in my life and what my life has been mostly about has been caregiving. But I'm a joyful, silly, happy person. And as I was grieving, I define grief as love with nowhere to go. And if you just let it fester, it can become muck. And I feel like I seek joy. Like you were saying, I seek joy in my grief. And I think we need to talk about it more like that, because I will tell you, I never felt bad for seeking joy as I was deeply, deeply grieving, because my heart and mind and body needed a break. Otherwise, I would break.
Yes.
I needed a break. I needed to go out and just feel like I can laugh.
Yes.
And I will say what's wrong with our culture, which we need to start changing, is other people would make me feel guilty for seeking joy.
Oh.
I will never forget this. I will never forget. There was one family friend that helped us a bit. And it was after my mom. This was my first time caregiving and everything. And then she passed away, and it was a couple months. And so sad. That's when I was totally isolated. I had none of these tactics or mindsets or anything. But I remember seeing her, and I was grateful for all the help that she gave us. And I was joyful. I was like, hi, it's so good to see you. And I think she followed me on Facebook. And then I showed like kind of being with friends or whatever. And then she was like, wow, I feel like I'm grieving more than you, because you seem so joyful. I remember that pierced my heart so violently.
Yeah.
I was like, you think you're grieving more than me? Why? Just because I need some joy? Just because I'm like laughing? Like I just went through years of like, none of that. Yeah. And I was deeply, still very much grieving. But when someone's deeply grieving, it doesn't mean every single minute of the day.
Yeah.
Like, you just need
we couldn't go on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So our goal here today is to tell people to release the guilt on yourself,
yes,
or on other people,
and go do karaoke.
And allow yourselves though to grieve in joy. I love that.
I do too. I love that too, because I love that you said part of grieving is seeking joy, because I can't tell you, like, that is such an incredible thing to hear, because it's almost like I'm thirsty for it.
Yes.
And, you know, it's so funny, because I feel like sometimes my friends are trying to figure out how to show up, and I love them endlessly for that, because I couldn't tell them how. I have no idea. But sometimes I just want to laugh with them, and I want to forget, and I want to just do an 80s ballad, and I want to just be like, let's party and let's laugh and take me away. I think about this a lot too. I feel like a lot of people have two different entry points to connect with you. One of them is sadness and grief, and another one is like celebration and joy. And it is so interesting, because being in this moment, we are kind of in a pool of grief, and people around us kind of know that. And it's very interesting to see the people that kind of come out and are magnets to that. Like they love it. They love the sadness and the grief, and they connect, and that's their connection point, and that's okay. But it's also really important for me to be able to connect to people on the level of joy. I can't live there every moment of every day.
No, you cannot. You won't be able to survive that. You know what I found though is like, so you talked about like the loneliness of caregiving. And I've been thinking about that, because there's all these different types of reasons why you're lonely, but at the core of it all, I feel like as humans, we just want to like be seen and recognized and heard. And in caregiving, so much is hidden, or no one sees all of it. And I think, so with my close friends, I feel like you need to still know, we don't have to talk about it all the time, but I think you need to know what my day-to-day looks like, or what the tensions are, or what I'm going through. I just need you to know that. And then can you be a release for me? But I also just tried to have fun and release. And then when they didn't know though what I was actually going through, that also felt so lonely and empty.
Totally.
So then I was like, no. I need you to kind of at least understand, maybe not all of it, but let me paint the picture of actually the mess and the difficulty and the sadness and what I'm actually going through. But let's just go out though. I want to like not talk about it. And so friends need direction.
Totally,
like anyone that you love, you know, and I think it's helpful to them because they don't know how to react. And that's what I do for other caregivers now. I'm like, okay, what's your mindset? Do you want to dig into it? I'm here. I can listen. Or do you want to just kind of like release and just be? I could do that too. But just giving the space, because you never know what mode that person's going to be in. But I just think the seen and recognized is like the deepest loneliness. And because we compartmentalize, you don't feel fully seen or recognized in any of those compartments.
Right.
And so I think that's what makes you feel like, oh, you don't really fully understand all that I'm going through. Oh, and yet our day-to-day, minute by minute, every day is all of it all mushed in one, all the compartments.
What were some of like the moments that you realized I'm really lonely? Paint that picture. What was happening? What did it look like and feel like? And what?
I think it's like all the mini micro moments that all add up. Yeah, I think for me, it was the realization in little comments or situations where I was like, wow, we don't have any idea what my day-to-day looks like. You know, I'll be at work or something and they had no idea that I was in the ER from like 2 a.m. to like 5 a.m. And then they're just like talking about what we need to do. And there's like no understanding of that. Or I would go to a kids function or a school event or something and everyone's just like, you know, doing the small talk and complaining about their mother-in-law or this and that. And they don't mean any harm. But to me,
you want to rage a little bit?
Yeah,
You just want to rage? Yeah.
And it felt so frivolous and this. And then I'm like, da, 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 da. Or like, they're like, yeah, my mom doesn't help out enough. And da, da, da. I was like, oh my gosh, my mom for most of my raising of kids wasn't that mom. Like I would get so jealous a little bit, right?
Absolutely.
And, like, you're so
We
lucky.
could
Do you know how
the
lucky
jealousy.
you are? Yeah, the jealousy. Or just like, you don't know how good you have it. Like I was taking care of my parents when my kids were young, not like them coming in and complaining that they only come twice a week or something. It's like, what is it? Death by a million cuts. That just felt like, wow, I feel so lonely and alone in the position I'm in. And you never know when it's going to end. So it just feels like this abyss of, this is the mode I'm in forever. And I will tell you, even after both of my parents passed, like, you know, the grief continues and the processing continues. And I honestly feel so nervous also when I have to articulate like my own journey because I'm seeing a whole new version of processing of what happened. And that's
absolutely.
what's different for caregivers and grief too, is that there's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of processing that you don't even realize, and it like unravels slowly over time.
We're always becoming different versions of ourselves.
Yes.
Too. I think that's something that I have to constantly tell myself.
Yeah.
Like whether that's in our careers or a caregiving journey. But the thing about caregiving specifically is like once you've entered this space, you're kind of forever changed in a way that you weren't maybe asking for or anticipated, or you thought that was so much further down the road. And for people like us who are young, like you said, career oriented, like have kids, live big lives, love to travel, love to have fun. And then this shows up and you're just like, whoa, what the fuck just happened? Who am I? This is not, wait, I can do a lot of things. This is different. You know, caregiving changes you. And then we continue to become different people along that journey. But like you're saying, well after too. I think that's what I actually love about making this podcast is we don't really know what it's going to do. We don't know where it's going to go, but it feels really important to make. And maybe it's just like an outlet for us to process all this too. But it's also like,
even if nobody's listening.
But
We're
also
just
we
going through
learn
it.
so much. And if we're learning this much, it can only help other people.
It does. I love it. It's the rawness that people crave because they're in it, you know? So I love that you guys are doing it, in the midst of it, because there are no pretty answers. And anyone that says, oh, these are the 3 steps or this is how it's done, like, you know, I'm like, you never actually lived through it.
No, exactly.
Because it never works that way. Yeah. I am pushing myself more and more, even now, to just kind of be more comfortable in being open about it. And I think if we all do that, we will realize that we're not the only ones going through it. And I think that's the loneliness we feel is like, we're going to package it up, not burden other people with these like messy thoughts and dynamics.
You know, there was this instance like a few months ago where I walked into a photo studio, and this photo studio that I rent often kind of has two different studios within the one. And I was walking in, and in the other studio, there was a team of people working, and I knew most of them. And so I just popped in to say hi to their shoot. And a woman who, she's a creative director, she walked out and she was having to leave. And she was like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy you're here. She's like, I've been listening to your podcast, and no one really knows this, but my mom has Parkinson's, and I'm on my way to take her to an appointment right now. And I mean, I have worked directly with this woman, and she is so young. And I was like, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. I had no idea. I was like, I'm here for you. You know what I mean? Like, we can talk about this sometime, but it never ceases to amaze me who is going through their own caregiving journey. You just never know who might need to hear your words today. I know we certainly did.
I wanted to say one other thing too about the loneliness thing, because it's something I really feel has been such a part of my caregiving journey, is like loneliness. And there's something so inconvenient about loneliness too. I recently, like, I've just been bearing my feelings so much because I'm compartmentalizing, and I don't want to walk around being like, oh, you know, I feel like sometimes people see me, they're like, how are you? And I'm like, I'm fine, you know. I don't want to be that person today. I'm great.
By the way, I would be the person who, like, the cashier at the grocery store would be like, how are you today? I'd be like, terrible. Do you want to hear? And I've had a friend be like, you know, Eliesa, you don't have to say your life story to the cashier at the grocery store every time you check out. Anyways, go ahead.
So funny.
But that's what I love about Eliesa too. She makes me feel less alone.
Yeah.
Which is like, you know, even in the laughter and like the tender moments we have when we're not recording and when we are recording, you know, it's just amazing to have people like this by my side. But I think, you know, my loneliness comes at 4 a.m. That's my flavor. You know, that's how it comes to me. And shit, like nobody is around. And, you know, maybe I designed it that way. I don't know. But I had like I had a bad hit like a couple of nights ago, and I've been having a hard time sleeping. And I think it's probably because I'm trying to bury all the things. And it was 1 a.m. and it hit me hard. And it hit me fast. And I was like, shit. And normally I would just get in the fetal position and cry. And it's just like, okay, this is what I got to do. And this is loneliness. This is grief. This is how it comes to me. Got it. I can do this, and then it will be gone. It will be gone in an hour, and I can wake up. It's almost like you just barf it out, and then you just wake up, you know. And I did actually end up sending 3 texts because it was so desperate that I was like, I can't do this alone. And I didn't want to wake up my husband, which I don't know why, because he's so amazing. But I was like, I want him to sleep. I don't want to inconvenience him. And I was like, I'm going to send out 3 lifelines and see what happens. And nobody was really able to answer. And I'm like, oh, shit. In the morning, these people are going to panic, and they're going to be like, are you okay? But I did wake up, and I did get beautiful responses and check-ins, and I got through it. I got through the moment by myself, but I just thought, man, this is a level of loneliness that I have never known. And it's dark, and it's the middle of the night, and I'm literally alone.
No, I love that you brought that up. I think that's a huge realization. I think our mindset, again, is what do we expect and what's actually the reality? And when you're not a caregiver and people say, you are not alone, I understand what they mean. But it's like, I'm damn alone. Like, I'm alone a lot. Like, I'm alone physically, I'm alone emotionally, I'm alone logistically, I'm alone financially, I'm alone a lot. Like, you know, and so I'm actually like, no, let's actually realize that being alone and feeling lonely is a key piece of caregiving. And if we keep expecting they're going to be there at 4 a.m. with you, we're going to constantly feel more lonely because we're expecting that. So part of me is, I don't know if this is too practical, but part of me is like, no, it is lonely. And let's at least acknowledge it and say, I know you're alone. Like, I know you're alone. But I think whenever I have expectations or something, and then it doesn't happen or the reality doesn't meet it, that's when I feel so disappointment that then turns into bitterness, that then turns into sadness, that turns into isolation, because I'm like, no one shows up for me. It's like, no, I mean, the reality is I'm going to be alone. It's part of because of the way we love and the way that we are always thinking about it. You're thinking about it at 4 a.m. because you love and you care and you worry. you know?
Myself. I love that you're just sort of naming it and acknowledging it because it's just a reality. That's just part of the game. It's just part of the phase. And we have to embrace a part of that. And then it's like, well, what do you do? What do you do after the lonely feeling?
Yeah.
Which I love that idea too. But
And
yes,
how do your friends show up for you knowing that you have a lot of lonely moments during this as a caregiver that'll like hug you extra, you know?
Yeah.
Make sure you laugh. So treat me knowing that I'm lonely a lot. Like I'm lonely. Be my friend where I can just literally vomit and not worry about being all over the place, you know?
Yeah.
So
I love that you said, you had mentioned this in your keynote, that you had a friend that you called and you just like let it rip.
Yeah.
But I was like, girl, yes.
That's the best way you can care for yourself, is to set you up those outlets or the people, safe places and spaces to feel what you feel.
I want to talk a little bit, not to take a hard left turn here, but I want to make sure that we have time to talk about this amazing company that you've built in Ianacare. And for those of you who don't know, Jessica has built a company. You are co-owner and CEO of Ianacare. And Ianacare stands for I Am Not Alone Care, right?
Yes.
First of all, I want you to tell us what Ianacare is, but then the name speaks so much to this conversation about loneliness. So how did that come to be?
So after, going through caregiving, it was interesting. I dug into the history of why caregiving looks like what it is today. So everything from the history of the hospital system, our healthcare system, our culture, it was very fascinating. Family caregiving has always been the root and the one consistent person throughout all care, but like technology and everything and the way the healthcare system kind of evolved has really gone away from that, yet family caregivers are still the one consistent care. Yeah. And when we really said, what are we doing? Because whatever we do, at the end of the day, this complex healthcare system, our society, the way the world works, all the resources, it's so fragmented, right? You don't know where to go, what to do, what to think. And so we said it's not an easy button type of thing. Caregiving is not something to be solved. It is what makes us human. It is the greatest form of love. It's like the ultimate purpose of life is to love and care for each other, especially when the person cannot care for themselves. And so it's really complex, and we may do a lot of things tactically, but at the end of the day, we just want to make sure that the person doesn't do this alone, that they are not figuring out what to do, how to do it alone. And so that's why at the core of it, from the very beginning, after doing all of that research and thinking and just being super intentional, because I did not think this was a business at first. I was like, this is just a culture change. I'm not starting a business. I've done startups before, and I was like, this is not a business, you guys. Like, this is not a thing. It's not a company. It's not a solution. It's a mindset culture change, because you need everything to work together to really support what we are built and born to be in care and love. So what we do is we match you up with a professional care navigator who has the clinical experience, non-clinical experience, and sort of right-hand person. So you do not need to Google anything. They will, you just talk to them, and then they do the logistics of everything from assessing what your situation is, helping you understand what the goals are for you and your family and your loved one. They'll put together a whole plan for you. And not only that, but they will actually make the calls, coordinate, help you understand how to make it happen.
Really?
Yeah. Yes.
I downloaded
so that's a key piece. And then there's the other part, though, that we were talking about, which is friends and family, that people will say, oh my gosh, what can I do to help? Which is the key question. Caregivers are often like, I don't even know what I need for help. But then once they think of something like snow plowing or, what am I gonna do for dinner? Like, our culture isn't built to say, hey, Eliesa, can you make me dinner tonight? Like, that's so awkward, right?
Yeah.
And so we said this is a perfect situation where technology can be a really effective buffer that keep everyone updated. I'm not asking Robyn for a ride for my kids, but I'll put it out there, and I can select who I would trust or who my kids know, goes out there, and Robyn could say, great, I can do that, or like ignore it and it's fine. And so it kind of addresses the tried and true question, which I have boiled down to the reason why it's so hard to ask for help or receive help is because no one wants to feel like a burden all the way around. Like your friends don't want to be a burden to you to say, what's going on? How you doing? Do you need this? And they don't even know what to ask. And then you don't want to ask because this burden. And so we're like, how do we get rid of that? And essentially we created this, this app, and it's on desktop too, but where the only people actually joining it are people that, like, if I join your team, it's like because I said, I know you're going to ask for help and like give me updates, and like that's why I'm on. Unlike Facebook or Instagram, where there are a lot of other reasons why I'm on that, right? And I just happen to stumble upon your post of sharing. And so even the self-selection of people who say, yes, I'm accepting this to be on your team, gives you that permission to say, okay, well then I'm not a burden to you because you voluntarily got on the team, and there's only one reason why you're here. So we just really thought through the human behavior of like, what can we do to help caregivers in the most practical ways so they don't do this alone. And we've just, so we have a digital component, we have the human component, and then now we are launched with the Medicare program for guide dementia caregiving, because we've served over 50,000 families. And
that's incredible.
Yeah. And top condition is dementia of all different kinds. And Medicare finally came out with this new program where they are actually paying, the government is finally paying for all the stuff that we do for families. And I think that is also a key piece of it, is how do we not put the burden on the family caregiver to pay for navigation help when they're already doing all the other types of support. And so we jumped on this because I think it's an innovative payment model that has to be proven to then go into all different types of caregiving.
So going back to the Medicare program that you were just talking about, that allows families who are caregiving for loved ones with Alzheimer's to sign up for Ianacare, but then it is paid for through this program. The services are paid for. Is that correct?
Yes. You just have to make sure you're eligible, which is essentially your loved one is on traditional Medicare, and then they have a dementia diagnosis. And then you go through what we call an alignment process, which is with our clinical provider. It's amazing. They make sure they have like the clinical assessment of your mom, and then they will talk to you about what's called the ZBI, which is a Zurich Burden Index for the caregiver. So what I love about this program, it finally acknowledges and cares for the caregiver.
Wow.
Okay. Well, I feel like that is a great way to just like end our time together. Thank you so much for sharing.
I don't know. I need another episode with her.
I know.
I need more time. I need more time. Part two.
So much to talk about.
Loved your openness and your candor and your levity and your humor. And I think that you are a very refreshing voice in the caregiving scene, because that's also a culture of its own, self. Yeah.
You're a light.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
So thank you for all you're doing, and thank you for your really wonderful advice.
I want to encourage the both of you as you're in it, and your voice and your levity and your just honesty and authenticity. I'm listening along, and it's so healing for me too. And so I just want to keep encouraging you to do what you're doing, and I'm behind you, rooting you on. So
Thank you. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and hopefully you can take away some helpful info and tips. All links and resources can be found in our show notes.
Please share this episode with anyone you think this might help. And if you have a topic that you'd like to talk more with us about in the sandwich generation world, please slide into our DMs on Instagram. Our handle is @thesandwichgenerationpod. We hope you'll be back for more convos with us soon. And remember, no matter whose diaper you're changing, you're never alone.